Good evening. This video I am constructing to get some meanings to the place Zion. Zion. In short, one thing that is challenging to me is the context behind the stories and what's written in the Bible. I don't know where or even when these things happened, so I think if I study certain words and places, then when I read the Bible, it will have more meaning if I can really get at the context. So that's 1 minute in and looking at Zion. So I've gone to Bible Gateway and just done a search for Zion, and I will try and read all of the different phrases, quotes. I cut it off originally, but this shows the instances of Zion. So Psalms has a lot, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. Interestingly, I'm not seeing New Testament references to Zion. Are there any? Isaiah 52:1. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and unclean. I am confused, and I'm not going to draw a conclusion, but it seems maybe that Zion is being equated with O Jerusalem. But then again, there is a semicolon here, so this almost might be like one sentence and this another. Don't really know. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. I'm not even going to try and decide yet. Second Samuel 5:7. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, the same is the city of David. And I won't try to suggest it to be fanciful, but there seems to be a little bit of suggestion that Zion may not just be a place, but in fact a person or an individual. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion. Well, of course that could be a place, but could it be something belonging to somebody named Zion? The same is the city of David. I'm not sure of all of the English grammar rules, but David here seems to be the subject of this sentence. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion. David is the subject. The same is the city of David. So, the same. When they're referring to the same, which noun in this sentence are they referring to? If it's the subject, it would be David, but maybe this colon references Zion, colon, the same is the city of David. So is Zion a place, and it is also the city of David? And is it the city of David because David took it? Although this is confusing because David takes the stronghold of Zion. So that would make Zion become the city of David, not is the city of David already. So I'm not sure what this is saying. Then This is 1 Kings 8 verse 1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, Lord capitals, out of the city of David, which is Zion. This is a side note, but I looked up the word Ark of the Covenant, and every time the Ark of the Covenant or the Ark of the Lord is used, Lord, Lord, appears in capitals. And I've gone down the list and maybe checked out up to about here. Ark of the Lord, Lord, capitals. But this is a separate discussion, and perhaps I should study this. But anyway, getting back to Zion. I'll just start again. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. So to me, this verse makes it clear that the city of David and Zion mean the same thing, are synonyms. It's interesting that the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord capitals is in the city of David, which is Zion, and it's assuming a little bit, but to me it's assuming that they're going to be bringing it into Jerusalem. It doesn't say that specifically, but since King Solomon seems to be in Jerusalem, it seems to be that they're bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. So, even the most subtle things I am trying to point out, but it seems that Zion is distinct from Jerusalem. But if I go back to this verse, it was somewhat equating Zion with Jerusalem. Jerusalem being the holy city. 2 Kings 19 verse 21. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning him. Of course, we're not reading the previous sentences, so who knows what this means right now. I'm interrupting. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken, capital L-O-R-D, concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. So I am using the paint program. But it seems that this sentence has three different characters mentioned in it, three different individuals. Lord, virgin, the daughter of Zion, the daughter of Jerusalem. And this is a different sentence because this is a semicolon. This is the word that the Lord, L-O-R-D, hath spoken concerning him. We're not sure who that is. We haven't read the full context of the passage. Almost like a next sentence. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee and laughed thee to scorn. Semicolon, so next idea. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. These seem like two different individuals, one being the daughter of Zion, the other the daughter of Jerusalem. Both of these phrases stand to be investigated as far as word searches. Unfortunately, there are too many tangents. But who are these two ladies, I suppose? Who are they? 2 Kings 19 verse 31. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Well, all of this stands to be investigated and read within context. I haven't done that. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant. Is this a remnant of people? And they that escape out of Mount Zion. This sentence does go together, that's only a comma. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Is the Lord of hosts the same as like the Lord, capital L-O-R-D, that has been mentioned already? So, just the way I read this, it would seem that two groups of people are being assembled into one place. So, from out of Jerusalem, which is a distinct place, it would seem, shall go forth a remnant, like a group of people. And they that escape out of Mount Zion. The way this reads to me is that these people who are escaping out of Mount Zion are also like a remnant which are escaping or leaving. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion. And who is doing this? The capital L-O-R-D is doing this. A question I have is whether Mount Zion is a mountain in Zion, or whether this refers to the totality of Zion, as if it's like a synonym for all of Zion. Could Mount Zion be a synonym for all of Zion, or is it a particular mountain in Zion? So once again I used the paint program. For out of Jerusalem, a remnant of Jerusalem, shall go forth a remnant. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Zion, out of Mount Zion. Who does this? The Lord of hosts. Moving on, 1 Chronicles 11:5. And the inhabitants of Jebus said to David, Thou shalt not come hither. Nevertheless David took the castle of Zion, which is the city of David. Okay, so once again you have a place called Jebus, and it has inhabitants, and those inhabitants are speaking to David. Thou shalt not come hither. They don't want David coming around. Nevertheless, David took the castle of Zion, which is the city of David. Okay, in context, it seems like the castle of Zion has something to do with Jebus, or Jebus is the place where the castle of Zion is. And there's a comma, which is the city of David. Is it saying Zion is the city of David, or in fact the castle of Zion, which is the city of David? I mean, logically, one might assume that Zion, which is the city of David, is it's elaborating on what Zion is. But I don't know. I leave everything up to questioning, and maybe the castle of Zion is also synonymous with the city of David. 2 Chronicles 5 verse 2. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. And this is confusing because 2 Chronicles 5 verse 2 is exactly like 1 Kings 8 verse 1. So I'm going to have to check that. Now this is very strange. I have my Bible in front of me, and I can vouch that 1 Kings 8 verse 1 appears to be the exact same thing as 2 Chronicles 5 verse 2. It's written verbatim. I didn't know that that even happened in the Bible. Well, it stands to be investigated, but entire passages are the same in both books. Moving on, Psalm 2 verse 6, Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Is the hill of Zion the same as Mount Zion? Sing praises to the Lord capitals, which dwelleth in Zion. Declare among the people his doings. Zion is, the Lord is male. The Lord dwelleth in Zion. Capital Lord dwelleth in Zion. And he has a people. Question to figure out, who are his people? I'm not being rhetorical. I haven't made the connection yet. Who are his people? Psalm 9 verse 14, that I may show forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion. I will rejoice in thy salvation. Okay, so I color-coded this, and I would have to read it in context, but who is I? Who is speaking? That stands to be investigated, that I may show forth all thy praises in the gates. What does this word actually mean? The gates of the daughter of Zion. Again, who is the daughter of Zion? And she has gates, and praises will be shown forth within those gates. I will rejoice in thy salvation. Salvation from what? That's what I was wondering. Okay, well, I got a little bit sidetracked trying to look at Blue Letter Bible, the Hebrew Bible I have, and the King James Version. And I just, what can I say? So continuing on, Psalm 14:7. Oh, that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. When the Lord bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. This was tricky for me to understand. I'll increase the size. Oh, that the salvation of Israel. So that kind of, to me, sounds like a percentage of Israel, which is a people. All of Israel, or just some of them? I mean, maybe only some of them are saved, I'm not sure. Were come out of Zion. So this people, Israel, is in Zion when Lord capitals bringeth back the captivity of his people. So it sounds like these people of Israel are kind of trapped in Zion. That's what it sounds like. Well, anyway, I looked up Psalm 14:7 in Blue Letter Bible, and one thing I noticed is that what's showing up here doesn't necessarily correspond with what's written here. It's technical to figure this out, and it even causes some confusion for me. But when I take this and I read it and I try to understand it, it seems to be a little bit different from what the Hebrew suggests. I mean, this really is a translation of the King James Version, and I don't know that when it translates from the actual Hebrew, it's saying the same thing. For instance, this is Psalm 14, is that 14:7? And it's saying, "Who will give from Zion the salvation of Israel in the return of the Lord?" So here's the Lord returning. But if you read the King James Version, it's like the salvation of Israel, the people of Israel coming out of Zion. I'm not saying it's intentional, but it almost seems like what's written is flipped. Again, it's a tangent to really study and explore, but it almost stands to have the Hebrew of Psalm 14:7, which is, I suppose, this here, not this, like this is King James Version translated into Hebrew. This is the Hebrew here, and it almost stands to have each of these words translated word for word to see what it's actually saying. But I will continue on. Psalm 20, verse 2, "Send thee help from the sanctuary, and strengthen thee out of Zion." Psalm 48, verse 2, "Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, on the sides of the north, the city of the great King." Here is the Hebrew of 48, verse 2, "Yefeh, Nof, Masos, Eretz, Her, Tzion, Yerka, Tzafon, Kiryah, Rev, Melech." This again. Beautiful landscape touching all country, mountain, Zion, after part, hidden, Boro, King. I don't know what this is. Multi. Psalm 48:11. "Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments." Here, Zion is not used so much as a place, but as like a nation. Let Mount Zion rejoice. So the people that live in Mount Zion, whether that's an ethnicity or a nationality, I'm not sure, let the daughters of Judah be glad. Now, does that just refer to the women of Judah? But there's this concept of daughters of Judah because of thy judgments. Whose judgments are we talking about? I don't know. I didn't read it. What I like to try a little more is to not refer on the King James Version, but to take the actual Hebrew and then just translate it through Google Translate and see what shows up. "Mount Zion will rejoice. You will discover the daughters of Judah for your judgments." I'm interested in the nouns, the proper nouns that appear, as in places and people groups, and what do these words translate as. So this is Tzion, Tzadik, Yod, Vav, Vav, and Nun. Tzadik, Yod, Vav, Nun. Tzion. Bat, Bath. Bath is a girl, daughter. The pronunciation is like Yehudah, and that's of Judah. Interesting that it translates as Judas. Yod, He, Vav, Dalet, He. 48:12. Walk about Zion, and go round about her, tell the towers thereof. Zion is a place, but it's female. Just wondering why you would talk to a tower. Why would you tell the towers anything? What are the towers? Psalm 50, verse 2. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God hath shined. Here the word is not Lord, it's God. And is this the same? Well, anyway, Elohim is God in this instance. I'm not sure what I'm actually saying or have found, but I noticed that on Google Translate, which may be modern Hebrew, there is a difference between God with a lowercase g and uppercase G, and it seems to be this addition of a vav. This, in fact, if the Google Translate is correct, is missing the vav, so therefore it's actually the lowercase God. And to prove it, here is the copied and pasted from that. I copied and pasted this. I'm not saying I'm even accurate and correct, but supposing that was the case, that translation, out of Zion the perfection of beauty, the lowercase God hath shined, or a God has shined. Do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion, build thou the walls of Jerusalem. Again, I'm not reading it in context, but here the walls of Jerusalem are being built in Zion. Two different places, and the walls of one place are built in another. Yetav, Ratzon, Tzion, Bana, Homa, Yerushalayim. Okay, this next one is a copy of another verse, verbatim. Psalm 53:6 is the same as Psalm 14:7. O that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion, when God bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. Once again, God is Elohim, which in fact, according to Google Translate, is the lowercase God, G-O-D, without the vav. The question that comes to my mind here, when God bringeth back the captivity of his people. So this is the lowercase God, the captivity of his people. And Israel shall be glad. So this is a group of people here. Is this the same group of people as lowercase God's people? Or is this a different group of people rejoicing at the returning of the lowercase God's bringing back of the captivity of his people? I think it's interesting that the word Yeshua is actually the word for salvation. And I don't want to get that mixed up with popular church conception or internet self-appointed authorities as to what this word means. but I'd like to take it as meaning exactly that word, the salvation, that thing which is saved, almost like remnants. That's what that word means. I don't know. This is interesting. Psalm 69:35. For God will save Zion and will build the cities of Judah, that they may dwell there and have it in possession. I thought, I was just studying this. When I clicked this button, which does the audio recording of this word, which is Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yod, and Mem. I'll just play it.
Strong's H 430, entry 1. Eloach.
Eloach,
Eloach.
Eloach,
Second entry. Elohim.
Elohim,
Elohim. And the third entry. Eloach.
Eloah.
Eloach.
So, right away, just from my knowledge, this is the difference between singular and plural. The mem on the end. So here I will paste it exactly. Okay, it's Elohim, lowercase god, without that vav. So what if I get rid of the mem at the end? Divine, godlike. If I get rid of the yod and the mem, goddess. I'm not saying there's any meaning to any of this. How about I get rid of these three? Two. I mean, here's a weird one. I type in gods, and it's cut off here. And then this word shows up here, which is Aleph, Lamed, Yod, Mem. And then I just flip it, and it becomes the word violent. God, capital, has this Vav in here. God with a lower G still has that Vav, but Gods gets rid of this. And when you flip it, it's violent. I don't know. Goddess is Aleph, Lamed, Hey. But to me, this is Eloah. Now, the Strong's entry, the guy speaking, the guy from Texas or wherever he's from, says Elohim, then he's like Eloach, Eloach, something like that. So this clearly has a mem at the end. So, in my opinion, and I don't know Hebrew, this should be pronounced Elohim, case closed. But for some reason, according to their translations, he still seems to think it should be pronounced Eloach. I shouldn't be so cynical and take a tone like that. I'm just trying to figure it all out. Remember the congregation which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed, this Mount Zion, wherein thou hast dwelt. If it would ever happen, it'd be interesting to do a word search for rod. This kind of checks out. All these words seem to be included in this original quote. I almost want to go back to the first quote where it didn't match up and figure out what was going on there. I think that was in Psalms or something. Well, this is oh, I was actually recording. Oops. Well, this is like a common noun. Here's the translations. With this ayin resh hey, ayin dalet hey, ada. And somehow you have a people who have been purchased. Kana. Kedem is of old. Interesting that pre also seems to refer to east, ancient days. Rod is Shabbat. This word is very similar. It could be a coincidence, but like the Russian Nachala, this is like the beginning of thine inheritance, Nachala, Nachala,
Strong's Nachala.
which thou hast redeemed, Gaal. Interesting. I mean, that's a question to try to answer. Is there an allusion or a reference anywhere else, or a model for a congregation which was purchased of old? And then the rod of thine inheritance is redeemed. And then it talks about Mount Zion. Psalm 76:2, in Salem also is his tabernacle and his dwelling place in Zion. So, Salem, where is that? And what is a tabernacle? I guess these are pictures of tabernacles. So here's this word, Shalem, Shin Lamed Mem, and Shalem means whole, complete, entire, intact, total, absolute. 78:68. But choose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion which he loved. I thought Shabbat was a rod, but here it's tribe. Judah is Yehuda. Okay, I'll try something. First, English. Choose with tribe Yehuda of mountain Zion which loved. Bahar et Shebet Yehuda et Har Zion Ashar Ahab. So is this God talking? Who's talking? Well, whoever it is, they chose the tribe of Judah, which they loved. But chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion, which he loved. So somehow the Mount Zion is being associated with the tribe of Judah. They go from strength to strength. Every one of them in Zion appeareth before God. And once again, this God is actually Elohim with an M at the end of it, but when it's translated in Google Translate, it's just lowercase God. Okay, the next, the Lord, so that's capital Lord, loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. So this is the same 87 verse 2. This is Psalms. The Lord capitals is Yod He Vav He, Jehovah, Ahab, Sha'ar's gates, Zion, more than the dwellings of Jacob, Yaakov. Strange that you would love the gates. What is so special about these gates? Sha'ar. Well, I don't know what Sha'ar means, but here's this concept of Sha'ar Shemayim, the gate of heaven. And Shemayim is heaven. Heaven translates to this, and Shemayim is the sky, heaven, or firmament. But there seems to be a distinction between the sky, heaven, or firmament from this word, which is actually a translation, which is paradise, heaven, Eden, or Elysium. This word for heaven is Gimel, Nun, Hey, Ayin, Dalet. I guess this is another Nun. G, N, N, H, A, D, N. Gunhaden, Gnaden, Gunhaden, Gunha, Gunhaden. Kind of sounds like garden. Next, 87:5. And of Zion it shall be, this and that man was born in her, and the highest himself shall establish her. Sounds like a bad translation. This would be a good one, maybe, to translate word for word. Maybe I'll even do it. Here is the Google Translate version. And a man shall say unto Zion, a man shall be born unto her, and he shall stand upon her. I'm not sure the exact words. This is like a Vav, Lamed, what's this one? Zadik, Yod, Vav, and I'm pretty sure that's a Nun. So this is a Vav, but how's that pronounced? This seems to be pronounced like an F. Ful, Tzion. Well, this was a terrible exercise, but Filt Tzion Yamar Ayish Ayish Yildba Yafa Yakunana Elyon. Okay, so Filt Tzion Yamar Ayish Ayish Yilt Ba Yafa Yakun. Elyon. This is an interesting word. Elyon, in her and the highest. Although I don't get how it's in her. Let's copy this. El is like on. And a man shall say unto Zion, a man shall be born unto her, and he shall stand upon her. Psalm 97:8. Zion heard and was glad, and the daughters of Judah rejoiced because of thy judgments, O Lord. Shamo Vatshmach Zion Vatglana Banat, which is girls, Yehuda Laman Meshpatetka Mishpat. The daughters of Judah were happy with Jehovah because of Jehovah's judgments. And this happened because Zion heard this. Who is Zion? I don't know. Is it a nation? Is it a people? Is it a place? So ambiguous.